Welcome to another episode of WNBA Digest. I'm your host, Jillian, as we recap everything that happened in week 7 of the WNBA. Now, this week started off busy, of course. Monday, June 30th, the WNBA would start the morning with an announcement that they were doing a press conference. And at the press conference, they would announce that 3 more teams were being added in an expansion of the WNBA.
It's not every day you get to make history, but today we do it 3 times over.
So now with these new 3 teams, we have 6 teams in total that will have been added into the WNBA by 2030. So we have this year, 2025, the Golden State Valkyries have been added, which we have been recapping. Next year, we will see the addition of a team in Toronto that has already been branded as the Toronto Tempo and a team in Portland. In 2027, there will be no teams. In 2028, there will be a team added to Cleveland. In 2029, there will be a team added to Detroit. And in 2030, there will be a team added to Philadelphia. Now, immediately there was a lot of thoughts about this. One in particular was the fact that all of these teams are up north. And it's not like there wasn't interest. There were several ownership teams in Houston, in Austin, Charlotte, Nashville, Kansas City. So many places that did want a WNBA team and did bid for one, but they just weren't chosen. Now, one of the most glaring things about all the 6 teams that were chosen is that all of these ownership groups are in cities with NBA and are ownership groups that already have an NBA team. And so I think maybe the assumption was that there's a built-in fan base, but that's not necessarily true. And while they might have facilities and arenas, a lot of cities could also benefit from the WNBA coming. I was really excited to potentially see a team in Nashville or Kansas City and was kind of bummed. Now, as I said, a lot of these teams that were chosen have facilities, so that is something that you think about when picking an expansion team. So for example, Cleveland right now has a practice facility that the Cavs play in, and they are building a new one, so the assumption is that the Cavs team will move into the new one and the new Cleveland WNBA team can move into the current one. Same thing in Portland. Now, Portland is home to an NWSL team, the Portland Thorns, and they are also well known and popular, and Portland is building a new state-of-the-art practice facility that will serve as a dual facility for the new WNBA team and the Portland Thorns. And so you can understand why maybe they would, but still, again, I want to see some other teams and some other cities, as proof for Las Vegas and even Seattle that no longer has an NBA team. Teams that only have one major league basketball team thrive and do well, and they rally around that team because that is the only team for them to support. Expansion can mean a lot for the current teams and players in the WNBA. If you have more teams, you have more games. More games means more usage, right? So if you're not expanding the rosters, you're looking at players getting more wear and tear, maybe more injuries, more exhaustion. Also, more games means a longer season, right? So now you're looking at possibly running into some other major leagues when it comes to scheduling, right? Another worry I have about expansion is expansion drafts, right? So when there is an expansion team added, as we saw this last offseason with the Golden State Valkyries, there is an expansion draft to the current teams that are here. The current teams can protect 6 players on their roster, and then the rest of their roster is up for grabs outside of like free agents and things and such. So now let's do an example, a hypothetical, right? So last year, the New York Liberty were the champions, right? They had this amazing championship team. Now the Golden State Valkyrie takes one of their players in an expansion draft, right? They take Kale Thornton, who's doing phenomenal, right? So now they've lost this piece, but now that's one piece that they've already lost. Now let's think about next year, right? You have Portland and Toronto doing expansion drafts. So they are potentially going to lose 3 pieces from their championship teams that have made up this team and this DNA. And that's very worrisome because, you work so hard to build depth in your roster. And now if you're looking at every single year losing a player, that's really difficult. I am always excited to see what these teams do and brand as. Like the Golden State Valkyries have had so much luck with the Valkyrie colors and branding and Valhalla. And as we said, Toronto has branded as the Tempo, but we don't know about the new teams. Now for all of these new teams, outside of Toronto, they did previously have a team in their area that they could potentially take the name back. So example, in Portland, they had the Portland Fire, and they did recently come out and trademark it again. However, I personally don't want them to be the Portland Fire again. I would love to see them do something else. I would love the Portland Roses for multiple reasons. One, the NWSL team is the Thorn, but also they play in the Rose Garden. It's called the Rose Quarter. I mean, they might have renamed it to Moda Center, but I remember. Same thing with Cleveland. Do they go back to the Rockers? Does Detroit go back to the Shock? That can get tricky because Detroit Shock, when they did disband, they relocated to Tulsa and then they relocated to Dallas. So now you're wondering, does the Dallas Wings lose their franchise history? So a lot to come with the expansion, but I'm excited even if I don't agree with all the decisions. Now the Commissioner Cup did happen July 1st. And you know what? I have to live with the results. So it was announced ahead of the game that Indiana star Caitlin Clark would not be playing. But that wasn't going to be an issue because Indiana Fever would go on to beat the Minnesota Lynx in Minnesota. And Natasha Howard was crowned Commissioner Cup MVP. So what does this mean? Some people assume that if you win the Commissioner's Cup, you're poised to win the finals, but that's not necessarily true. There have been 5 Commissioner's Cups since its inception in 2021, and only one team that has won the Commissioner Cup has gone on to also win the finals. So when it first started in 2021, the Seattle Storm won the first Commissioner's Cup, but the Chicago Sky would go on to win the WNBA Finals. Then in 22, the Las Vegas Aces would win the Commissioner's Cup and the WNBA Finals, the only team to ever do it. In 2023, the New York Liberty would win the Commissioner Cup, but the Las Vegas Aces would win the WNBA Finals. And last year, the Minnesota Lynx would win the Commissioner's Cup, but the New York Liberty would win the WNBA Finals. Something to note though, last 2 seasons, the loser in the Commissioner Cup is the one who goes on to win the finals. So, does that mean the Minnesota Lynx are set to win the finals? To be determined. Now it's time for a look at the standings, and I just want to remind everyone that we record on Sunday, July 6th. So these are the standings on Sunday, July 6th. So if you see this video after Sunday, July 6th, and maybe the standings have already changed, don't come for us in the comments, okay? We record, and I'm sorry if it changes. So let's look at the updated standings. Now, there wasn't too many games this week because of the Commissioner's Cup. It was a short week, but we still have some movement. So first off, I want to look through 1 through 5. These are our double-digit leaders in wins, right? These are our WNBA teams that we can consider contenders at this point. So Minnesota Lynx is still sitting up top. They have 5 games up of everyone else. And then let's look at those 2 through 4, okay? So we have Phoenix Mercury, New York Liberty, and Seattle Storm that all have 12 wins, and they're only just separated by their losses. And we see that with the win the Seattle Storm got today over the Liberty, they have now jumped up to 4th over Atlanta. I also want to point out the Phoenix Mercury, while they are holding on to the 2nd spot, they are on a 2-game losing streak, so get it together because I don't know how long we're going to be holding on to that. Next, let's look at our seeds 6 through 9. They're all just 1 or 2 games back of each other, and it feels like these seeds move every day, as I said. The Golden State Valkyries are still holding tight to that 6th seed, and we have Indiana and the Aces fighting for that 7-8, and then we have the Washington Mystics in 9 pushing. And finally, let's take a look at our bottom 4 teams. Now, while these are the bottom 4 teams, you can see that Dallas and Los Angeles have gotten some wins this week. So they are moving up. They both are at 6 in the win column, and they are knocking on that Washington Mystics door. And then finally, in last place, we still have our Connecticut Sun that are on a 10-game losing streak. Womp, womp, womp. I mean, y'all could tank and still not be that bad. And now, of course, it's one sentence about week 7 of each team in the WNBA. Minnesota Lynx. Now, y'all really let Indiana come into your house and beat you like that? Really? You knew you had one job, but it's all good because it don't even count toward the standings. Y'all a little broker, though. Phoenix Mercury. Alyssa Thomas, appreciation post. She should have been a starter. New York Liberty. Leona back. I still need y'all to get it together, though. Atlanta Dream. Ryan Howard day to day. Say it ain't so. Seattle Storm. Those all-star votes came through. Good wins this week. Golden State Valkyries. Not y'all waving Julie Van Loo as soon as she got off the plane after skipping her Eurobasket championship. Seriously? Los Angeles Sparks. Claim Julie Van Loo off them waivers though, I know that's right. Las Vegas Aces. Welcome to Alyssa Smith. I am really excited about it and I'm glad we got some size. But y'all, you're starting to make me look bad. Washington Mystics. Yes, rookie all-stars, but Brittany Sykes was snubbed. That's crazy work. Indiana Fever. Congrats on your Commissioner's Cup win. Chicago Sky. Me bounds, she bounds, all-star bound. I know that's right, Angel. Dallas Wings. Okay, rookies. Impressive win.
Honestly, it's fun. I love playing with them, and I think we love playing with each other.
Connecticut Sun. Is it time to start bullying y'all front of house and coaches yet? Because I feel like we need some smoke for y'all. Thank you all again so much for watching another episode of WNBA Digest. We'll be back next week talking about All-Star Draft as well as everything that happens on week 8 of the WNBA.